All right, so we are in the building. About 17 seconds in. It looks like Instagram's always giving me a problem, so we're just gonna let it fly. We'll see what happens later. How's everybody going? We've got another smoke stream for you. BG, how you feeling today, my friend?
Man, it's hump day, baby. We back on it for episode 2. It just seems like last week we were here, but here we are again, man. Ready? Let's go. All cannabis enthusiasts, all platforms. Time to tap in on hump day. We're going to talk about, is cannabis getting too strong?
Yeah, we're going to talk about that, man. Let's get it started. Just enough time to light up. Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to another smoke stream. I am Bob, the Cannabis Cowboy. That's my boy BG, as always, and we are rolling on another Wednesday. I think we're going to try and cram out probably 11 episodes this season, and this would be number 2. So we're hoping we can do it, man. I think if we just put our heads together, we can get it taken care of, man. We're good.
Just takes a little commitment. That's all. Just a little commitment. Just know that difficulties will arise. But you got to stay committed to the plan, baby. And we're committed to the plan, diversifying the content here, especially on Build Different Groups. So shout out to everybody on Build Different Groups. Shout out to all of our Green Badge supporters, Bob being one. Shout out to everybody with green badges on Build Different Group. Make sure if you enjoy the green with your green badge, you come tap in with us today.
Eric B commenting early. It looks like he was in here about a half hour.
Yeah, I think
before.
those comments were up before the show got started. What up, Eric B? We see you out there in Florida, baby.
Oh yeah, so let's get it going, man. So I was just saying to myself not too long ago, man, like, I'm down there in the basement and I smoke my usual indica during the day because it's just not something that's affected me. But I got to tell you, man, I've been finding myself falling asleep at the weirdest times down here in my basement. Usually in a situation where I'd be awake, doing something, maybe playing a game. Like sometimes games lull me to sleep too. That's just the way the sort of like the music goes, but. I'm telling you, man, it's the same strains I've been smoking for years. And all of a sudden in the last year, it's been kicking my ass, man. So I'm saying to myself, we've got to do an episode about this. We got to do an episode about this because it can't just be me. It's got to be a lot of other folks. And I wanted to talk to some folks who have been smoking for a long time. And that way we have a good cross-section of knowledge. We got somebody like myself and BG who can go back real far. And then we've got our guest, who I want to bring, which I didn't tell anybody we were going to have. I'm just so lucky that we were able to get him in here. It's crazy that he's found some time, man. I know he's a busy dude, but I'm going to bring in my homie real quick and let's get a little applause bringing in and some suspense.
What up?
What's up?
What's up, family? Thanks for having me on, y'all.
Yeah, man. So listen, this is Omari. Omari, you work for Good Chem, right? What do you do with those folks?
That's right. I'm one of the lead retail managers. It's kind of like a district manager, so to speak. Just make sure all the stores are taken care of. My home base is in Aurora, but I've been there going on 9 years now, and it's been awesome, man. It's been fantastic. It's been quite a ride.
So you know exactly what I'm talking about when it comes to this cannabis because you have been around this cannabis for almost a decade. I myself, like I said earlier when we were in the green room, have been smoking Good Chem weed for a long time right now. It's probably going on closer to 17 years than it is 15. But I was saying to myself, listen, it's getting me really, really high. And so what I wanted to do is I wanted to make sure that not only did we all talk about our experience, but we got some hard numbers because on this channel and all the shows that we do, BG and I've done, whether it be Smoke Stream, whether it be Square Groupers or anything like that, we're trying to throw knowledge out there. We don't just pull shit out of the air. We're trying to get some real information in here. So I pulled up some information and I wanted to make sure everybody understands where I got it from. So all the stuff that I'm about to show you is all bar graphs that have been basically taken from NIDA. which, as you can read right now, the NIDE Potency Monitoring Program officially began in 1968 when the University of Mississippi was awarded the first federal contract to cultivate research-grade marijuana and analyze the potency of confiscated cannabis samples. So be wary. Take that into mind when I show you this information, because, again, there could be a huge chance where a 3% THC that they found was turned into an 8% because it was a bunch of scare tactics back in the day. And when we're talking about confiscated cannabis, we're talking about something that they're going to want to exaggerate for purposes of their investigations or whatever they're doing. So these bar graphs are just sort of something that we're going to go with. But I didn't want to give you a bar graph from somebody who started smoking 5 years ago. I wanted to get it from at least something that's been going on for a long time. And this one right here is one of the bigger ones that we've got. The span from 1972, a year before I was born, all the way up to 2016. You could see it going from 2% all the way up to 18%. We've got a graph here from 95 to 2022. Cannabis samples seized by the good old D. And again, it's almost the same rise. We're going from 5% from 95 to about 16% in 2022. And another graph right here, which is a little blurry, but it's pretty much the same thing. We're going back from 1985 to 2007, and it's taken a jump from 3 to 9%. Now, this is all based off, let's just say, illegal grows, confiscated grows coming in, however they decided to confiscate it. It does not take into account the last 10 years, at least, of our state and other states growing for potency to be stronger on purpose. Pheno hunting, trying to find the best performing plants, the highest performing plants. That's the reason why THC is going up for sure. And I also want to let everybody know that I decided to leave concentrates out of this conversation because it doesn't really make any sense to talk about that. It's like 100% since day one. So we don't need to talk about that. It's too much, if I'm being honest. But BG, have you noticed at all yourself, and obviously be honest, but have you noticed, let's say in the last 5 years, it possibly being stronger, more potent, or anything like that?
Me personally, no, but I think there might be a tendency there because, like what you're saying, more people are growing, more people are trying to be competitive. The market is competitive. Folks want to be the best. And so a lot of folks are, like we talked about this on the last episode, are hung up on those two numbers, especially on those packages. And that those two numbers really don't mean anything, but it is weaponized in the sense in the way you're talking, the way you show that data here, that it could possibly be getting higher. I mean, maybe, but I just really haven't noticed myself. I think there's a tendency for it to happen. I ain't ran into any of that good shit yet. Maybe I need to come down to the good chemistry.
All right, there's something I want to also point out too before we get to you, Omari. BG, you are predominantly a sativa smoker anyway, right?
Correct.
Okay. I think that could be one of my factors. Since I'm a 99% indica smoker, this could be the reason why. It could be just catching up to me the way it's caught up to everybody in my life. So I don't know. Omari, let's hear what you have to say about it, man. Do you feel like it's getting stronger? Because you actually have two sides. You've got your cannabis enthusiast side, and then the fact that you've worked for them, for GC, for almost 10 years.
That's right. And B-Mac in the comments said it right. This is not your grandma weed we smoking now. And that couldn't be more accurate. For me, I'm going to say that I find it helps my smoke session become a lot more efficient. I'm able to sit down, and whereas back when I first started smoking, you're 5-6 blunts in because you're getting that Mexican brick weed. You're like hell to break it down. Hey, I see it, BG. You know what I'm talking about.
I know about Mexican brick weed, but you said 5-6 blunts in.
Oh man, I'm talking
you smoking with Snoop Dogg over there, big dog.
Oh man, yeah. In another life, I was rapping and all that good stuff. But once I got to working in kitchens, man, you didn't have time to smoke like that, And so you had to find something better. And I'd just say, like, at this point, I've definitely found what works for me, where I could smoke a joint, maybe two, and be at a really good place for a good amount of time, which is ideal,
Yeah. And that's really what it's all about too at this point, because, and anybody who's a good smoker, a responsible smoker, is going to find that limit and find out where they are. I personally have just been noticing, without smoking anymore, at certain points of the day, I feel like I'm passing out. Like I've completely lost it. Now, the other part of this too is the fact that I've been hitting the gym pretty hard for like 2 years, and I
That's what
don't
was gonna
smoke.
say. Did you just get out the gym and take a shower and smoke a
Well,
joint?
it's really like that's probably when I feel it too, because afterwards is one thing. I smoke sativas before I go to the gym, because it to me mentally right away I know I'm going to get some energy.
Get you off the couch, get you up and
Right.
going.
I want to at least get a little bit of liveliness going on, and then jam out to my music and do what I've got to do. But when I come home, matter of fact, I think I use going to the gym as an excuse and a reward for smoking indica, if I'm being honest. Because I'll say to myself, I just had a killer workout. I'm just going to puff some indica. And then it's like, all right, well, I don't know what happened, but I've been honestly saying to myself, I'm just going to start buying some more hybrids and sativas. And today I went to good old Good Chem on South Broadway and saw the folks out there. And I think I got four indicas, and the other 4 were a mixture of sativa and hybrids, because I just said that's the way it's going to be now. And that's totally fine. I find myself enjoying sativas more anyway, in terms of the aroma and the flavor, because you just get so many good floral and citral notes from sativas as opposed to the indicas. But it's been getting me high, man. Your THC percentage, I think, at Good Chem has been going up quite a bit, hasn't it?
Oh yeah, it has, and honestly, that's in large part to the consumer trends, man. Now anymore, if somebody comes in, we've had to put testing percentages of our strains on the display board so people can see it when they shop. And when you do have a lower testing strain, it will literally sit. And it's unfortunate. It's unfortunate. A lot of people are going off that number, and I think BG said it best. He's like, those 2 numbers hold a little too much weight for some people. I kind of wish cannabinoid testing and terpenes were a lot more prevalent. That information was more prevalent, so people can see what actually works for them and disregard that number some.
Yeah, I've even bought some that's been low. Like I'm like, all right, it just looks good, and I'm like, whoa, 18% hitting like that. Okay. Mm-hmm. And then you go to Vegas and you get some 32 and you're like, this is 32? Maybe that's what you're talking about,
bro. So right there is proof. And we say it all the time, BG, and we talked about it with my brother last week, the entourage effect, everything other than the THC really is what works in concert with THC in order for you to get that feeling that you're getting. And again, that number is a big thing. And I think the race to get to that high number is what's making people grow this bionic cannabis. And again, I've like BG was just saying, I've smoked what people think is 28% from somewhere else, whether it be, sampling it to see if I can test it or whatever the case may be. And then I've had like a 20 or 21 from Good Chem and just been floored. So there's 100% a difference right there. And it's about where you're getting it from, whether you're getting the right genetics, and really if you're getting it from somebody who's pheno hunting, because the particular phenotypes you're looking for, the high producing, high yielding, and high THC bearing. And that is a number that seems to be looked at too much, I think.
I do got one more thing to add on this, though. Please I would just say, man, I know there's been some random, I'll just put it this way. There's been whispers of inflated numbers at some stores in previous years, and more so from certain testing places. With that being said, here in Colorado, 15% variance on anything. So something that says 32 could actually be testing at 17, and it'd be perfectly fine to put out on the shelf. With that being said, since they've kind of shut down some of those inflationary testing centers, I suspect that maybe people are bringing their A game a bit more. So you are seeing a bit more of that oomph that might have been overstated is now being accurately stated, and you might be actually getting the effect that it's saying.
That's crazy to know. I don't think I even knew that there was a 15%
sounds
buffer.
Legit. Seems legit.
Yep.
Yeah, I mean that seems like a business number. So let's put that in there for that.
That's good insight. That's great insight, Omari. Thanks for sharing that. I mean, especially for everybody that's tapping in here today. I mean, you're not going to get this kind of cannabis information anywhere else. It's not like the folks that are putting out the high numbers are going to tell you we're putting out the high numbers because we want to sell more. No, you're going to hear it from local influencers and people that you can trust, like these 2 gentlemen here in Colorado at work at Good Chemistry. Shout out to Good Chemistry.
Oh yeah, for sure. Good. That's what again, it's for me, it's always been consistency. And anybody I have that comes in from out of state, I send them to that store, to that company, always, because if I'm going to put my name on something as something I endorse without really having anything to do with it other than being a customer, then I want people to go there and be like, oh shit, he was right. Like Yeah, that was it, man. He was right. Like, nobody has ever hit me up after going there going, you did me wrong, bro. Like, I thought you were steering me in the right direction. I'm like, look, you can go pay $70 a cookies. You go to Good Chem and you're going to get the same weed for much cheaper. And because it's just good. And I have seen that number climb up. I do look at it, and I think I've mentioned this too. I'm going to pay more attention to a strain that says 14% than I do to something that says 28. Because if you put 14% on your cannabis, it's probably 14% or lower.
Yeah. They're not like, hey, well, we're not going to inflate it. I mean, 14 is 14.
Yeah, they don't deflate numbers. You inflate numbers. So I pay attention to that number. But even then, and I'll use this strain as proof. It's not Grizzly. God, what's the kush that's over there now? There's some sort of, what is it?
Purple Durango.
Purple Durango Kush. Purple Durango Kush seems to consistently stay at about 15%. It never wavers. Blueberry Muffin, probably the same. I've seen that go, I think, as high as like 20 on a batch or two. But again, I already know whether I see that number or not, that after I smoke it, it's going to give me the feeling that I want. And that's what I always went by. I went by at the end of everything, at the end of smoking and rolling and tasting and everything, how did it make me feel? And 9 times out of 10, that number has nothing to do with it, because to me, it's the flavor. It's all those wonderful things that you get from it. And some people, like you said, you might throw it in a blunt and that blunt's going to completely destroy any trace of the cannabis flavor. But sometimes you might want that, especially back in the days of the 7% brick weed. That's going to probably explode in your face from the C's when you light it up if you didn't get all of them out. But that's what's funny is I remember, I talked to folks around my age, and we do reminisce about the weed back in the day getting us higher. And that's what I think is very weird, because obviously the THC was lower, but that also kind of proves to you that the THC does not matter. If we're talking about folks like myself who smoked something that's basically 22% or what they call 22%, but still talk about the stuff back in the day that was 7% that got you lit, that kind of shows you that number doesn't really matter. But it also shows you how much higher we're getting. I mean, can you imagine if there really wasn't that much of a cap on alcohol percentage?
Well, look at the other side of the coin. Maybe because everybody was so young and, our tolerance levels were low.
Again, that's another good point.
I don't know. I'm just trying to think on the opposite side of the spectrum here. I'm not trying to, to be divisive here, but just so everybody can get a full 360 spin of this.
No, 100% BG. Man, to kind of build off what BG saying, I sometimes think there might be something to do with the difference in growing techniques. Before everybody was hydro, you had everything growing outside, your red buds, your Colombian golds, your Acapulco golds, and all the different old school strains people will tell you about, lamb's bread and whatnot. And I think there truly is something glorious about smoking from something grown the way it's intended to be, you know what I mean? And it having a bit more to it. But
you probably got these cookie cutter growers that's trying to slap stuff together and grow it, not caring about the quantity than the quality.
Agreed.
Yeah, that's bound to happen. And again, that's why I've stayed consistently with good chemistry. But those numbers are it's I think, like you said, and like my brother has said, that you had to start getting it close to those high numbers in testing, simply to feed the customer what they wanted. And it's the consumer, like you said, exactly, that has done this. It's basically
the education of folks is already low. More people are learning about cannabis, more people are finding out the value of cannabis, and things like that. So it's all about the education, and a lot of people are uneducated when they go into. I know I was, and I've learned a great deal by hanging out with Baba. He's been a big cannabis mentor to me. He helped me get my my medical cannabis card, which, by the way, in Washington State is tax-free if you got a medical cannabis card. So you're not paying any taxes on federally marked products anyway. It's got to have a certain sticker on there for you to qualify. So, but yeah, it's all about the education, and folks that don't know about these, of course, knowing right off that you don't know nothing about weed. Oh, it's that number's higher than that one. Give me that one.
Yeah.
They're going to smoke and think, oh, this is better. And then, until somebody like me who's been in it for a while and hang around Bob and then go get and say, okay, 18%, I see you. Like, man, all right, big 18. You know what I mean?
It's funny because I mentioned it to my wife, and I was telling her like, "Hey, I'm gonna go when I go to GC tomorrow. I'm gonna get some sativas and I'm gonna get some indicas that are only 16%." She's like, "Don't do that." It's like, like you're right. I don't need to take somebody down with me. But really, it was just sort of like going to be this test. And I can tell you right now, after smoking half of this joint, which is, by the way, I don't know if I mentioned this on air, it is half sativa, half indica. So I made my own hybrid joint, so I didn't pass out in the middle of this particular podcast. I didn't want to do that, but it would have proven my point. I basically have been reverting to doing that, to sort of like mixing my joints because I want that kick from that indica, but I don't want to pass out. So I don't know. I spoke to my brother about it too, and there's a couple reasons why we're definitely getting higher, but I don't know that the tolerance thing is what puzzles me about this, because if we're going to talk about the logic we're talking about, then there's absolutely no way I should be getting higher by this cannabis.
Correct.
I shouldn't be getting high at all. I should be wanting to smoke more. And I know that my numbers, well, they've kind of stayed a lot. I smoke a lot of cannabis, but at the same time that I would think to myself, well, that tolerance was so high that I wouldn't be able to get as high as I do, but I do. What do you think about that, Omari?
I don't even know what to say to that, to be 100% honest. That'd be interesting to ask more people and kind of get a study. Because it's just like, I feel you, because there are some strains where I'm like, my tolerance is trash here. I'm like you said.
Yeah, is this even weed? What is this?
For real. What is this?
Delta 8? What is this?
Yeah, 100%. But that's just how it goes. I hope that what it is that people are getting better, getting these cannabinoids and terpenes a little more pronounced, and it's coming down to the cure process is what I'm hoping. But it'd be interesting to do a study and see.
Something off topic, Bob. I seen Burner's got a whole bunch of stuff coming out. I think you probably may keep up with him and know he's been sharing, all his trials and tribulations. And he tells the Gary Payton story about how Gary Payton was on the market. Gary finds out about it, comes out and checks him. And he's like, bro, I wouldn't even, you know what I mean? The whole thing, to do with the education of folks. What do you think about, what Burner's got going on and everything? Starting out as, I think he was a rapper and a drug dealer or dope or cannabis dealer, and now he's on the cover of Forbes.
Bro, it's amazing. I'm definitely gonna get his book, bro, because he is very inspiring. Just the way he's a perfect example of no instance or interaction is a closed door or a low ceiling. You have no clue what any interaction will bring. Just how he met Wiz Khalifa and was able to link up with him and continuously grow. And who knew, one bag, one joint or whatever turned into one of the biggest brands in America right now. So it's pretty nuts.
He said he turned down money from Jay-Z and P. Diddy.
I believe it.
They were trying to get at him. They're trying to get him. Think about the discernment he had to have with Diddy, the diddler.
Well, honestly, being able to turn down, yeah. Well, turning that was a good decision. Turning that down was a good decision.
Yeah, legendarily good.
At the same time, that's a lot.
Jay-Z
of money.
just a culture vulture. Jay-Z
huge...
Jay-Z had. I think Jay-Z launched some $100 blunts or something like that because people were rolling them professionally or something. I don't know. Anyway, I'm sorry, but yeah, get back to Burner.
I mean, he's definitely got it. He did some pretty smart things business wise. And again, it's not like, I always say, if you want to go spend more money for great cannabis, you can go to Cookies. But like I said, I mean, I've always wanted to shop local, and not to mention, if it's about price and quality, I don't know, man. I honestly, I know that there's got to be this boutique designer cannabis too. And as someone who's like always been a grassroots dude, I never wanted to get involved in any of that, but I always looked up to what he did business model wise, because you can't deny it. You just can't deny it. When dudes are walking around with, I've seen females with Cookies, hoodies, and been like, "Oh, you smoke?" Like, no, I just like Cookies.
It's a fashion
like,
statement.
Oh shit, they got you, man. Like,
what's weird though? I have never had any Cookies.
Wow.
Not his brand. The biggest brand. That's by far the biggest brand, I think, in the cannabis industry. Is it not? As we're talking about strains and things like that?
I would say as a company, yes. As a brand, yes. But
like when you say Cookies, everybody knows, weed.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Essentially. Yeah.
Yeah, but you know about those big companies that no one knows about, Omari. That's what you're trying to talk about, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. There's some really big ones like your Veros and your
I've heard of them.
There's a couple big ones buying up everything right now. But I would just say this: it's not unusual that you've seen cookies, you can see its brand from a million miles away, but have never tried the weed. I find that to be the most consistent thing. And I once joked with somebody in the cookie circle that, like, man, y'all probably sell way more clothes than weed. And they're like, yeah. So I'm just like, all right, well, cheers to that. I mean, at least something's getting sold.
Bob,
basically,
smoke stream teas in the making. We hear the press going in the back, or you know what I mean.
You're basically buying advertisement, and you're selling it at the same time. So you're getting somebody to buy your sweatshirt that does not smoke cannabis, that throws your brand out there, so that it's so much more visible for somebody. It just becomes this part of this subliminal thing where you see it until you actually see it, and then you don't realize you've seen it 50 times before you see the logo. And that's the genius of it for sure. And they themselves have hugely risen THC numbers in their cannabis too. And
that's what I wanted to get to about burner and what our topic was.
Yeah, because that's something that they're a business. They're going to move upwards like everyone else did. And let me ask you this too, Omari. I remember for a while, because I was putting the branding on my videos, and this really has less to do with THC, but it has more to do with like fluctuating markets. I know you were classifying a lot of your cannabis as GC uniques or like small batch. Do you have when did that stop becoming a focus? Because that kind of stopped right around the time you guys were talking about terpenes. And my point of this is, it's probably like you can only try and educate somebody to the point where they understand it, and then once they stop getting it, you stop teaching it.
Absolutely, to some extent. So, like, to just kind of double back, with the GC uniques and small batch uniques, just spoke to the pheno hunting and the breeding that they were doing, and any strains that came that we bred that were specific to us. Whereas the small batch will probably more than likely be the different strains that we bred together. You know what I mean? So you obviously couldn't put your name on cheetah piss or something else. But then to your point, though, terpenes, we test for those in Massachusetts because it's required. So we have ongoing database of what every strain tests terpene wise. But yes, you are 100% right, where it is sometimes hard to push education on people who just want to get in and get out. And you got to meet people where they're at. So there are going to be where for the longest time we were always entourage effect, cannabinoids, this, that. Some people just want to see the highest testing and want to buy as much as they can of that and head out. And you just have to meet people where they're at. And that's one of the beauties of Good Kim. And, Seattle, I went to a few different stores. What is it? Sean Kemp has a store.
Yeah, he's got Kemp's Cannabis.
Yep. They did a wonderful job of meeting that middle as well. And I think that's ultimately where we are as a cannabis community.
Yeah, that's crazy. And I feel like do you feel like the numbers can keep getting higher?
Yeah, they most definitely are. I remember getting in the industry, and the first thing I saw over 30, it was like, yo, this company is killing it. Yeah. And then I saw my next 30 the next week. And so on and so forth,
Yeah, that's a big number, man. I don't know. I think maybe there has been a 30 or something in that area at Good Chemistry, because and I think I've looked at it and been like, all right, cool, let's see what's up. Like,
hey, I've seen plenty of them at Planet 13 in Las Vegas a couple of weeks back. When I was there, I was like 30. I was just like, it don't look like good flower though. You know what I mean? Because they got it out where you can look at it on the glass and really, see the texture and how it looks. And it just didn't look too good. I was like, man, those are like 32, 33. I seen some high 30s in there. I was almost tempted, but then I thought not all 30s is 30s. You know what I mean? And not all 18s is 18s.
And again, there's the important part of this whole conversation is if you can easily and legitimately grow a plant that's got 30% THC in it, but if you don't have the proper terpene profile or even CBD to go along with this whole package, that THC you're going to find out is not really a big deal at all. And again, that's why those numbers climbing to me have always kind of been a weird thing, because I honestly, I don't think any of us could have thought it could have gotten higher than 30. It almost, a flower anyway, because obviously we can extract and then make everything 100% if we need to, but having a 50% THC flower seems insane to me.
I wonder, can we do research? I know you guys are both, especially Omari's, they're a good chem. Is there any kind of database or anything where you can check trends on which percentages sell most across the U.S.? Is there any databases or anywhere you could track it locally or nationally or anything like that?
Man, there's this analytic company. I want to say it's BDS Analytics, BD something. But they typically do a lot of analytics on that. They're the ones who are able to show that Blue Dream's the highest selling strain every year. Somehow it's like every year for the last.
Yeah, that's why Clear Choice Cannabis up here never runs out of it. I never understood that. Like, they always have Blue Dream.
Dude, Blue Dream is like champagne. I mean, for your brunch crowd, like Blue Dream with a little bit of, what do you call that? A mimosa?
Yeah. Little champagne, little orange juice. Yeah.
That's true, and that Blue Dream is the anomaly too. I remember the one from Good Camp could, at any point, they would call it a sativa or indica, and it does not matter what you call it. It could be either or at any given time, at any given batch. It's a very weird strain in that way, where it some days would floor me, and some days I could smoke it and play basketball and be like, good. It's crazy. That's a crazy strain. But yeah, I'm looking right here. I think it's a BDSA, Cannabis Data Company.
Yeah, that's them.
Okay. All right. I was just, as you said it, I was just trying to figure it out. And
yeah, because I'd be curious, like, I mean, if you got to be in the single digits, like, how could you be in business? That's what I'm thinking about, is like, if we're talking about the numbers are increasing and the numbers are going to continue to increase, like you're saying, if it's a 14 bob, it's probably a 14. But I just wonder how the Lil Fries are surviving. That's what I was interested in.
I mean, Omari, you can tell them right now that they're not.
They're not, man. Less and less, BG. There's been times we've had to pull product that just wasn't moving because we, after a certain point, can't sell it to the public. It's a plant. You can't have it sitting for too long without it degrading to some point. So, yeah, man, they're not doing so well, man. I'm hoping something changes, but.
So that automatically means if you're coming out the gate, you probably got to do this research and think, well, we need to shoot for the highest number we can get.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. And so let me ask you this. I'm not really sure if I even asked this question to my brother, because he spoke to me on companies he's worked for, and it's a very, very common thing in order to make sure there are no contaminants in grown cannabis to microwave the whole thing. Do you think there's any THC or a trichome depletion in that process at all?
It doesn't seem like there is. It doesn't seem like rad sourcing. I'm not sure if it happens in Washington. I would imagine so, because there's so much more moisture up there. It's tough,
right?
But rad sourcing is a basically microwaving the weed to get anything out of there so that it does test clean. Because here in Colorado, if you got any microbials beyond the limit, there's emails coming out about it. People are learning about it. It's a big punishment,
Bro. Let me tell you, I'm glad you mentioned that, because it wasn't until I was able to get my MED license last year where I got onto that email list, and I am blown away with the amount of emails I've gotten. This company was out of compliance for mold or whatever the case may be, and I'm like, oh, why are you blasting them like that? And I'm like, well, it's the MED. That's their job to do it, and it's pretty cool that they're doing it. Because honestly, you would think that maybe some people are just trying to keep business flowing. They don't want that information to get out. But if they're going to be held to a specific standard, then everyone's going to cover their ass, which is definitely what's going on with that. But that THC percentage is out of that conversation, man. I mean, I don't know. I kind of maybe assumed that maybe some people are losing THC in that process, but it's good to hear that it's not happening. There's other process, obviously, that you can do that are a little bit more malicious to the cannabis, but I don't know. I mean, it's the way Good Chem specifically grows different strains, which, like you were talking about, it's always grown the way Good Chem grows it. It's almost like, because I know for a fact that there's difference conically the way pre-98 Bubba Kush grows versus a Northern Lights. There's a difference in the way they are growing, and it does not matter. Good Chem will make them look the same. And it's just a testament to, especially knowing that not only they know how to grow, they know how to pheno hunt. You guys know how to find those higher testing cannabis to be able to put them on a market. But that's what I really loved about Good Chem, is that's never what it's all about, because you can find a 15 on the menu. And again, if you're gonna use that number as a barometer, and you're a new cannabis smoker, you're going to say to yourself, I don't want to start with a 28%. Let's start with a 16%. So, the fact that the different levels of THC, if they can mean something to somebody, then at least you get the ability to walk in and take a lower testing one and be able to see what the effects are on you. And then eventually later you'll learn that number doesn't always matter. But like you said, since the breeding's been happening and it's been done so well, not only have the THC percentages go up, you're getting more trichome content, you're getting way better terpenes, and the whole package is getting bigger. So in turn, I'm getting knocked out by about 8 p.m. sometimes.
Sterling brings up a good point, Bob, and I want to ask you a question too. He says, what is the shelf life of bud? That's kind of a general broad stroke question. But my part to both you and Amari is, how about people that aren't educated going into stores and getting these high numbers and like, oh my God, who's the best weed I ever had? And, how much of that you think may play into the overhype of, just because they, casually smoke weed and they got a 30%er that it was, moon rock. That's my guy B-Mac in the comments. Shout out to B-Mac.
Did you want to go first, Bob?
No, yeah, but what's the shelf life? Yeah, what's the shelf life on the bud too? Y'all can throw that in there as well.
Go ahead and answer that first. Go ahead.
With the shelf life, we are trying to keep get anything in and out the store within 90 days. After 90 days, it needs to be gone. And just real quick, like the state of Colorado is really big on this thing called aspergillus right now. It's a specific type of mold. It literally touch your desk, rub your desk, boop, you got aspergillus on your hands. It's that simple. Aspergillus is one of those things with air exposure, can literally get it just from contaminants in the air, and they can come in, buy the weed, and then fail you for a test retroactively.
Damn, it's so scientific, it seems like now.
Yeah, it is. But if it's good for our health overall, then I'm cool with it. You know what I mean? Right. If it's onward and upward, then I'm good with it. But man, that's rough. But 90 days is about all that you want to have it on the shelf, and that's with Bovita packs and different things that you can do to try and stabilize moisture. I imagine in Washington it's probably a bit different because y'all got a lot more moisture in the air and a lot more products come pre-packed, right?
Yeah. I'm not too familiar with, that side of the business side of it. It'd be something I definitely have to look up. But I mean, you're right, because everywhere I go, to your point, everywhere I go now that you can travel with bud, right? According to TSA, I just traveled to LA with it in my carry-on and everything, and went through TSA, and then they moved my bag over. I'm like, all right, here we go. They must ain't got the directive, right? So we're getting ready to have this standoff, and then guy goes, do you got anything sharp in your bag? And I'm like, scissors and a razor. I'm like, nobody ever asked me that. The guy opens it up. Then he pulls out my, because I'm going to LA, Bakersfield, it's like 100 degrees. I had a bottle of suntan stuff in there. He's like, oh, you can't have this. Psh, you're good to go. I was like, cool. So anyway, yeah, you can travel with cannabis now. And, everybody that's seen weed that I took from Seattle, they're like, that's the most beautiful weed I ever seen.
Yeah, I think it depends on where you go. Definitely, you're gonna. Well, at this point, you'll be hard pressed to go anywhere and find bad cannabis. Like I just don't know where you could go to find. If you're trying to sell it professionally, you're definitely not selling bad cannabis. You're just not selling cannabis that's as good as somebody else's. Is really how it is. The levels I think have all kind of gone up in terms of quality. But I don't know. I mean, again, we're talking about it. It all comes down to the problem is that as a consumer, it's too hard for you to believe really anything because you don't have control. You can get data spat at you, and you can get a something printed for you, but you don't really know if any of that is true. So it's you would hope that it's up to the consumer to be like, all right, I'm going straight for a 28% THC. That's what I like. And if you like it, fine. But at some point, you're going to realize what's the difference between a 20 and a 28? Like that number is.
How does the black market deal with that? I mean, they got to be you kind of just get what you get, right? I mean, I know we're talking about
I don't know that they do
cannabis here, but I'm thinking from a black market perspective, they don't know what's what, and it's like what if you don't like this guy who's your dealer, you got to go try to hunt one out, find one on the internet or something. How does that work?
Yeah, black market seems wild, but from what I understand, now granted, I'm not too involved, but from what I understand, though, it's more so playing the game of growing the strains that we want. Stores are going to grow more yield specific strains that are going to yield well, be very consistent, not too finicky. So some strains are very hard to grow, super delicate. This is why strains like Mr. Good Kim kind of went away, where after some time it just kind of runs its course and you're not able to do too much more. But I would say when you go to the black market growers, that's where you're seeing strains that you haven't seen in forever. Your white rhinos, your lemon G's, your strains that really don't.
So word of mouth gets around who got what, and you go see a man about a tree, right?
Yeah.
That's right. And then a lot of times they'll throw events where if you know, you know. And once you go, everything's there. I remember one time, if y'all don't mind me telling this story real quick.
Go, man.
One time I went to Oakland and I was visiting my sister out there, and her buddy was like, I want to take you to a farmer's market. Guys, you think farmer's market. What you thinking? I'm thinking
vegetables, fruits,
green chilies, man. Yeah.
Kumquats, squash.
Corn on the cob and the husk, all that.
That's it. Man, we get to this like industrial district in Oakland under some trains. I'm like, this don't look right. I don't see
ain't no gardens up in here. Huh?
Ain't no gardens. We walk in a building and pay $20. I was like, oh, there's no soccer moms here. I don't know what's going on. We walk into this little courtyard and there's 5 rows of tables, 4 to 5 tables each. And it was this cornucopia of people, man. You had everything from like your yay area, like thug types to Silicon Valley types.
Tech types with the suits, right? Yeah.
That's right. To your hippies. And everyone had trash bags. And you just walked up and got to just smell the buds, pick them up,
put in a bag and weigh it, huh?
That's it. And you move on to the next grower. And some people will give you samples. They just light up and let you smoke. And there was everything from rosin, live resin, edibles, cartridges. They're like, there is no limit. What you want to buy? You got thousands? I got it for you. But that was quite the experience. And to my understanding, that's common now.
Wow.
Man, I haven't had one of them experiences. Crazy. I need to get one of those.
Yeah, that's
trash bags,
crazy, man.
Oh yeah, let me get some of that.
But you know,
some of that.
The funny thing is a lot of the. I know a lot, especially, and we dog California because they're kind of messing things up. But a lot of their black market bud is specifically because, like you said, they've grown so much that they don't want to burn it up. They don't want to get rid of it. So it's going to hit the secondary market. Hopefully it doesn't hit it in a bad, moldy or old way. But that's exactly the backdoor stuff that's happening is horrible for the business and for regulated cannabis overall. But again, like you said, a lot of other people are growing those old strains like me, because in 2020, when we were locked down, I already started noticing Good Chemistry was not carrying pre-98 Bubba Kush anymore. I couldn't find Golden Goat. I couldn't find I think there was something called Whitaker Blues. That it was one of the best blueberries I've ever had in my life. So I know that was a DJ shortcut too. So there was a bunch of stuff that came and that all of a sudden went because of the explosion of cookies and cakes and all these other flavors. But the THC kept going up on them. And somehow these other growers who are really good at growing are getting higher levels of THC in their homegrown Northern Lights and Skunk #1 and all these old school strains. So that's definitely.
I think it's because maybe they got better chemicals, better dirt, soil.
Oh, the ease of growing right now is amazing.
Ventilation and stuff like. Does that all matter in the quality of the flower? I mean, kind of a dumb question, but I know you're a cultivator, Bob. All that matters. The equipment, all that matters to the type of plant that you're trying to grow. I mean, you can't have shoddy equipment.
100% shoddy equipment. You're gonna get inconsistent flower. Good in, good out, as they always say. And I would just say like the more I'm not gonna. Yeah, it does make a difference. I think that's the long and short. It does definitely make a difference. Yeah. And just a heads up, B-Mac, I ain't smoking no more Mexican weed. It's been over a decade.
No. Yeah, my God. I don't know. I think maybe if someone had it preserved for a long time, I would just, for old school's sake, be like, let me hit that. And then be like, oh, God damn. All right, cool. We're good. Now I remember why we advanced in cannabis, because we don't have to cough our brains out. And again, that was, the crazy thing a lot of people don't know either is that Mexico was really the reason why we got Sinsemilla. They were the first people to say, seeds don't matter. Let's take it out of the weed so that we don't have so much weight, and all the weight that we sell is just cannabis. And basically learned that if you pull that male plant before it pollinates everything, you're good to go. So in that vein too, you got to know people are outdoor growing and guerrilla growing killer 22%, 23%, because it's not just people buying cannabis in dispensaries. It's black market people or people who don't have a legal cannabis system in their state that are growing high percentage cannabis. Now, what that number is, you don't know. If you're going to be somebody who's a guerrilla grower, you're not going to send your cannabis up for testing in a state that doesn't have cannabis testing. So you're going to lie to somebody and say this is 27%. You're just going to have to believe that number from whoever you're getting it from. I just think that number is more believed from a dispensary.
You see, that's what I love as a veteran who approaches cannabis as an alternative for mental health, because this is a holistic journey. You know what I mean? You're going to, see the trends with strains and things like that, but realistically, you're trying to find what works best for you. And we were talking about sativa and indica earlier, and the reason why I'm a big sativa head, which now is wild because you got lean into some sativa this week, Bob, and I went and bought some indica. You know what I mean? So maybe as the world turns here on the smoke stream, but yeah, it's a holistic journey, and it's about the effect. How does it smell when you open it? What kind of experience does that give you? How does it make you feel afterward? All of that stuff. For me, I roll old school white boy joints. It's therapeutic. The whole process, breaking the flower down, feeling it. That's why I've never got on the vapes and pens. Not that they're not safe, but I just feel a lot better about touching what I'm putting in that I'm going to inhale. But treating it from a medical, standpoint, the numbers really don't excite me. Like, I'm like, whoa, that's high. But for me, like I said, if I find a good 18, it ain't about the number. It's about the journey and the experience with it.
The strain. It's about the strain. And the more you start doing, you more start digging into what strains come out with what terpene profiles, it's going to be so much easier for you to pick a strain based on not that number. When you start realizing what the lineage of this cannabis is, that's why I've been working my butt off for years to try and help the community that I've make these videos for to understand that. You want this whole effect. And it seems to me the whole effect of all of it lately has been kicking my ass, man. Again, it's the reason why I'm smoking that.
It's a great discussion. It's a great discussion point, because I honestly, like I said, I haven't seen or felt that, but it's interesting to hear two folks that are very knowledgeable in the space to, open this conversation, because I learned a great deal, especially from Amari and y'all today on this whole, numbers thing, not just because the number doesn't matter, but all of the variables that affect going into that number, and how that number is going to continue to decrease, it seems. And the little fries are dying.
Yeah, I mean, I was when I started indoor growing in 2020, because I'd been outdoor growing my whole life. I think it took me about 3 years to start producing good cannabis and growing good cannabis, because I can only grow 3 plants since I can only flower 3, which is another completely different conversation about why those rules have not changed. Right. But I know for a fact that after I dry and cure my stuff, because I long cure my shit. I cure my stuff for 6 months. I don't give a damn. It's staying in jars for 6 months and I'm burping them all the time. But after that whole thing, I know for a fact that because it's fresh, I get higher from a lot of my stuff, but it just doesn't give me the flavor, and it just doesn't give me that. The flavor is really a big deal for me. I can't seem to grow cannabis the way good chemistry grows cannabis, and it's super frustrating. And I spoke to our friend Amanda about this, and she's like, that's why I stopped messing with growing, period, end of story. Like, it's just, it can be really, really hard until you get your head around the fact that as a home grower, you cannot pheno hunt 100 plants. That's the reason why you can't grow like a dispensary, because you can't hunt like a dispensary.
100%.
But you can't say we can't let you grow. But you can grow.
Right.
It's just what you can grow.
Right.
I will say this though. One thing about the good chem growing process that I thought was super cool when I visited was that, like, they'll have a row of plants. Let's say it's like 10, 12 plants right next to each other. Boom, 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 boom. And they'll call each one a different batch. And they'll go through and they'll see what they like or don't like through the grow process, how the buds are coming out and everything, the smell coming from it and everything. And then they'll determine which of these batches is actually going to be the correct one to proceed with. And I don't know. I think that has a lot to do with it too. To speak to your point, the average person doesn't have all that room to experiment with 10, 11 variances of a single strain to figure out which one's going to come out the best. You know what I mean?
That's quite expensive. That's going to be quite expensive.
Well, look, the reality of this is too, like a friend of mine said, you've had some great performing plants. Why haven't you cloned them? And I will say to you, because I would have to have another tent in order to keep that thing growing in the middle of my flowering process or whatever the other tent was. You basically have to grow, and you have to have another environment to grow your clones in. Yeah. If you're in the middle of growing your other grow, because you're eventually going to flip a switch to flower, and you can't have that in a small little plant. So that also starts getting weird. There's something else that popped up that I realized today too Omari, did you see that seeds are going to be illegal as of September of this year?
Yeah, man, there's a lot of changes coming. I think the best way to say this is people that didn't smoke definitely voted through the farm bill way back, like 2019, 2020.
Yeah.
And I think
boy's first administration. Yeah, he passed that farm bill. Yep.
That's right.
We talked about it, Bob. We talked about it during that time.
Yeah.
Man, and the misunderstanding that like, hey, THCA can be legal. And like, okay, what's THCA? An acid. An acid of what? THC. Okay. Is it active? No. How do you activate it? With heat. Okay, so what do you do with weed? You light it. You legalized weed, dog. Like, and so now they're trying to do this big overreach to overturn.
I see what you did there, Amari. I see what you did there.
But hey, listen, if anybody grew it, if anybody smoked, hell, if anybody actually read it, I suspect that we wouldn't even have got to this point. But I'm glad that access was made for everybody over these past couple of years. Being able to talk to my family in like Arkansas or Alabama.
Yeah, I just heard Georgia passed the medical cannabis down there. And so now I think that's 41 states, because I think the medical cannabis space is probably getting ready to take off now that everybody can do the research, and that is all there where it's at now. I think it's just one step closer to where we get, everybody can just go in the store and buy it.
That's going to be interesting here, because they've basically done a good job of killing our market. Yeah,
the medical.
Yeah, man. When I moved here, there were
Is Good Chem medical, or are they medical? They take medical cards there.
We give a discount to anybody with a med card, but basically, when I moved here, there were hundreds of thousands of people in the medical marijuana patient registry. Right, we're down to like less than 100,000.
Yep.
And there's several reasons, but I think the biggest reason is they keep making it harder to maintain your card. First, they made it so that you couldn't, buy the same limits anymore. Then they changed other things. But now, imagine this.
They're trying to adjust the THC limit. I remember they was having this conversation, right?
That's right.
We can only be this strong.
Oh, check this out, BG. Imagine walking in and you go, here's my ID, here's my med card. And they're like, all right, I need to see your form that your doctor signed that tells me your exact ailments and exactly what they signed off for.
Wow.
Every time you go shop. That's the newest thing.
Ooh, yeah, that'd be kind of a tough one, because I even experienced that as a med card holder. I went to Florida and learned not all med cards are good in medical cannabis dispensaries, because in Florida you got to be a state resident with a medical card in order to buy. And so I was at Disneyland with my kids for a week, and let's just say I consumed a lot of alcohol.
Yeah, see, there you go. It could have been so much better for you if it just would have been able to get you some cannabis.
All that traffic that they're missing at Disneyland for folks like me that came in with medical cards thinking I'm about to try some Florida flower, but no, it didn't work out. And so, not all medical cards are the same.
Now that you mentioned that, because we were talking about this last week about how Vegas has openly admitted that they've completely screwed themselves by not allowing cannabis to be smoked in casinos, and at the very least cross advertising casinos with cannabis in some way, shape, or form, where you're going to start, now we're going to start seeing all the way down the strip, 33%, 44%, like all the neons, because that's, you got to know that's what they're going for, man. If we're going for that number, it's gonna be, you're gonna be like, ooh, there's the red light looking at me. I got, look at that 42%. Damn. The barometer, man. That's what's gonna be. Right. Vegas is gonna set the bar on that, because if that's the way it's gonna be, if it's just gonna be a number game, then that's how they're gonna win people over. It's like, all right, look, man.
That's where the education, I believe, is gonna come in, like what we're talking about here right now. You're gonna have to get educated so you don't get hoodwinked at the counter.
Like Caesar's Palace, the only casino with 33% cannabis in every room.
Let me ask Amari, does that matter? Like, does it matter to bud tenders? I don't know if anybody's ever asked this question. Do bud tenders, they don't make any more money if they sell more expensive weed, right? Or if they sell more quantities? Is there incentives like that? Or you just work by the hour as a bud tender? How does that work?
On the standard, no, but there are programs where they'll incentivize different things. Like we at Good Chem, we'll do something where it's called Spark Plug, where a company will come to agreements with us, like, hey, for every unit that a bud tender sells, we'll give them $1 or something like that for a certain amount of time. But there is no like standard across the industry. That's
that makes sense.
Because then it would look like, a typical sales, you're trying to sell the more product in and the higher product so you can make more money as as a bud tender. But good thing that we haven't got there yet. That's good.
Yes, I'm glad about that too, man. I'm glad about that because one of my favorite things to hear people say is like, no, seriously, you can always just come back. You know, just if all you want is the one, just get the one, but know this for next time. You know, and opening the door to future visits rather than being like, I got to shut this door. You're cornered. Buy the maximum amount. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
By the maximum.
You sure you don't want this? You sure you don't want this?
You want this ounce?
This shit right here. This shit right here.
I got shit to do.
Yeah, man. That's one thing I've noticed in good chemistry. It's never like that, man. Because there's a line that actually forms, and I'll sit there and listen to how customers are spoken to. It's always read who they are. If you give them something, and if they don't bite, then just roll with what they give you. And the information's always there. It's always, and that's how you've got to be. And again, I've heard conversations with, all right, that's cool. Where's your 25% THC? Where's this high percent? Well, here you go. This is exactly what that, because if you want the customer to be happy, that's what you're going to go with.
Yeah.
And
you're that say, stop.
Right.
You should know that not all high THC numbers. I don't think y'all are giving that kind of advice.
So listen, again, BG, that's a good point, because unless they're telling you, listen, the backbone of this dispensary is knowledge. We're going to cut them off and tell them they've got to know about this terpenes. You're not going to stop a sale. And that's part of the hard thing about being a business and trying to educate at the same time, I think. Do you think that's correct, Omari?
1,000%, man. Listen, you'll have one guest come in and go, 24? That's it? You ain't got nothing stronger? and you have the next guest. I'm talking about literally receipt in hand. Have a great day. What's up, man? How you doing? You don't have anything lower than that, do you? Right. It's just so funny. But yeah, to your point, man, you really can't force education on people. And
you got to meet customers where they're at, right? You can't try to educate everybody that comes in and attack people. But I like it though when you do ask questions, and they do, because that's what I learned at one of the dispensaries up here about the tax-free sticker having to be on certain products in order for it to qualify if you're a med card holder and things like that. And so, yeah, there's some game that you can get at the dispensaries if you just go in and ask questions.
For real.
You got to ask to get the knowledge.
And ask them what they like. Because a lot of times people will put you onto new products and experiences that you may not have had really on your radar. And they'll introduce you to something nice. But, it's interesting.
Before recreational, I had been going to Good Chemistry / Wellspring, that store, for so many years. After a while, when people were asking questions, I would give them answers before a bud tender would, because I had so much knowledge about all of it, to the point where the general manager of the store was like, we're going to hire you. And they actually hired me at that store I'd say I worked there for about 7 months before I jumped back into food service, because I had such high knowledge of everything. And their strains in particular, your strains in particular, I had a depth of knowledge about. And they were like, dude, Bob's here. He knows about indicas. If you got a question, you can ask this dude. He's going to give you the answer. And it was never about over-educating somebody. It's like you said, you meet them halfway, or you meet them where they are. If they're going to ask for that high THC number, you point them in the direction of that high THC number. But here's the challenge. And anybody who's watching right now will take this challenge with me. Come to my house and hang out with me in my basement and smoke 20% Menage with me from Good Chemistry. And let's smoke about 3 joints and tell me how long you stay awake. And then you tell me if that number means anything to you. And I can even go meet you lower than that and take you to, Grizzly Purple that maybe tested 18 and still slam you in the head. It's just
a different experience. Everybody has a different experience. Everybody's body reacts differently. It's, not generally the same. And that's why I say it's a holistic journey for the veterans out there that choose cannabis as a medical alternative for mental health. You got to experiment. Now, yeah, you do have to pay, because ultimately my dream is to be able to walk into the VA and be like, yeah, I need that Blue Dream. Can I get an ounce script right quick?
That Blue Dream's back, man.
Yeah, let's go.
Then I'm gonna go see my folks at Good Chem. Be like, I got that script, baby.
Hey,
that Blue Dream at Good Chem has always been fantastic, man. And it was always like in unison with Ingrid, which is another indica that I don't see enough of anymore. But I know how it goes, man. That's just the way it used to be. Good Chem was all about Ingrid at one point, man. They were selling the hell out of it. It was the flagship strain. And I don't remember what that tested at. It didn't matter. That was clobbering you in the head, man. That Swiss hash plant was to die for, man.
Oh,
B
So
man
good.
got one more good question. I don't know if we got to it. He says, "How can you, as a home grower, know how much THC you have?" Bob, that's good. As a home grower, like as we're talking about the THC numbers and things like that. Yeah, I mean, does that kind of
no, there's a way
because
There's
grow
actually
markers
a
don't
way.
fall in the black market.
No, but you can as long as you're in a legal state. Let me preface it with that. So if you're in Colorado and you're growing and you'd like to see what your stuff tests at, you can actually call a lab, and some
Okay.
labs will take outside testing.
Oh, that's dope.
Which is really cool. And that's a really cool thing. And then the other thing I was going to mention is the coolest way I've seen education happen is repeat purchases. I think Ingrid's a perfect example. It's been there. I've been there 9 years. It predates me, right?
Yeah.
But with that being said, I've seen it test as low as like 20, 21. I've seen it test as high as 32. And I've seen people buy it over and over and over again and know that the strain itself is what they really love, and regardless of the numbers. So it's just one of those things that when you have that happen, the natural education where somebody comes to that conclusion themselves, that's actually beautiful, man. I love that.
That's the polar opposite of, like we say, folks going in saying, "Oh, I got that 30. Oh, that's it. That Zah was on you. Zah was hitting." Like, I mean, you know.
Man, I've been in a couple stores, man, where I'm like, dude, chill out, bro. Like, and and as someone who's been around the block, you don't want to act like you've been around the block, so you put up this air of like snobby pot dude. But sometimes I'm just like, yo, chill, bro. Like, I'm here. I see what you got. I'll ask you for what I need. But you know, you never really know, man. There's probably some very timid people who come into dispensaries for the first time. If you don't contact them, they're probably not going to talk to you. They're just going to look at the weed and leave or something. But again, the selling point is really one of the real reasons why that number has become important, or important to some people. But for me, I think honestly, maybe the reason why I think cannabis has gotten stronger, because it has, is more so for me, is I'm starting to realize as I get older that indica is not something I should be smoking during the day on a regular basis anymore. I could up until about 3 years ago, proudly. And it's just because I was fighting through the fog. But at this point, I know that there's specific strains. I have the ability to go to Good Chemistry and be like, oh, dude, I'm going to get some Apex. And then I've got some Jelly Pie. And then if I really want to go to bed, that Menage is coming, or GMO Skittles, whatever. So I've got the ability to do that with you guys. And again, it's never about that number. It's just about the effect. And I've just personally been feeling like the effect's been hitting me a hell of a lot more. BG, good for you that you haven't, man. You haven't reached that point yet. So
no, it's just funny that you say all that as we're talking about, you know, switching strains and all that. Like, you know, I predominantly prefer sativa because it keeps you up and active. You know, when you're a content creator and you want to batch content, or you want to, you know, work 3 hours straight and get through some stuff and get a project done. But now I just kind of want to chill because I've been on this Chat GPT, man, and Chat GPT is cutting down my time on creation, baby. And I think maybe that's why I might have switched to the indica to slow down a little bit. You know, because ChatGPT done speeded things up. So I don't know. Maybe I'm just trying to relate to the switch, but it's been a great conversation here today for sure.
Yeah, no doubt, man. I'm glad. Hey, listen, Omari, thanks so much for taking the time out to come and hang with us, man. I mean,
for sure, man. Learned a lot, man.
Super important.
Bring him back, dog. Bring him back. Give him a round of applause, Bob. Let's go,
man. Thank you for having me.
Yeah, it's been great. We'll hear right now.
There we go.
So here we go.
On the fence, baby.
Give him a good one. That was good. Hell yeah. So yeah, I think personally it has gotten stronger. Mathematically, it has gotten stronger, but technically we don't know that answer because the only thing that we have actually used as a metric is the THC number, which the triumvirate will tell you 10 times like we have, doesn't necessarily bring the whole information to your face. So the bar graphs I showed you were just basically cute little things that the government's been dangling in front of us for years anyway. And I thought maybe I'd show you those so you can see that the numbers have been climbing up a little bit. I feel like it spiked somewhere in about 2020, if I'm being honest. I feel like we went from like 18 to 30 within that time rather quickly. But again, that's not to say that at the end of the day that it's really getting stronger. It just could be someone like me is just smoking the wrong kind of cannabis at the wrong time. And before we go, are you under the impression, as a lot of people are, Omari, that there really is no sativa indica anymore?
I still think there's sativa and indica. I think that, like, you can't tell me that myrcene is going to be good for me to go run a mile, and you also can't tell me I could smoke limonene and go lay on down, because if I do, I'm just going to be sitting there That's not ideal, dog. You know.
Right.
Yeah.
Hey,
So-
I tell you the difference already, man. The indica's like, yeah, that's what I need. I need to slow down a little bit. You know, I feel like I just need to slow down. But you're right. You're right. Certain strains are gonna do certain things, baby.
Or not.
100%.
So here's the deal, and I'll say this like I've said a couple times before. It's sativa's not going to get you energy. It's just going to take away less than an indica would. And there's a little bit of an amplification involved in it. So there's a little bit of a pop somewhere. But I don't think if you don't want to be dragged down in any way, then don't smoke cannabis. If you've got the ability to stay high and kind of feel a little bit of a drag, because that's what's going to happen to new smokers, then deal with sativas and hybrids up into that point. But either way, I feel like it's going to be stronger than if you smoked it 10 years ago. So but that's just me.
100%.
Omar, anything you want to say before we get out of here, man?
Man, not
You
too
got a
much.
plug?
I just wanted to say thank you so much for having me, BG, Bob. This was fantastic. This was a great time. If you're in the Colorado area, more specifically Denver, please come check us out at Good Chemistry. Not only are the stores awesome, we're active in the community. We got car shows coming up, a Juneteenth kickback. We got the pink party. We got so much coming up in the month of June. Definitely invite you to come and check us out. And yeah, I hope everybody burns one tonight. Has a great one, you know?
Beautiful,
That's
beautiful.
what's up,
BG,
baby.
anything to say before we get out of
Nah,
here?
man, I'm just saying we gotta have Omari back, man. You know what I mean? We might be working with cooking with some sauce here. You know what I mean?
No doubt, man. It was great. It's great to hear from you, Murray. We're definitely going to have you back. I'll let you know all the episodes we have moving forward when we make them. And if you find time, it's going to be the same time every Wednesday. So if it's something you can swing, man, we'll come back for a couple. We come back for all of them. Whatever the heck you want to do, man.
Hey, I'm sick. Well, I look forward to that, and we'll make it happen, family.
All right, folks. So listen, that was another Smoke Stream 2026. Again, thank you so much, Amari. BG, as always. It's a pleasure doing business and hanging out and educating the family. Cannabis community, I appreciate you hanging out. I didn't really pay attention to where everybody was looking at, but it looks like we got a lot of folks on YouTube as well as BDG and a couple other spots. Instagram messed up, so whatever. I'm not worried about Instagram today, but
Shout out to
We're gonna
Facebook,
get
shout out to YouTube, baby.
yeah, man, we're gonna get out, folks. Keep growing.